Night came early in Kisongo, a quiet town where people locked their doors long before sunset. At the edge of the town stood Mwingu Secondary School, a towering building with cracked walls and a strange way of swallowing sound. Students joked about ghosts in the corridors, but the adults never laughed. They avoided the topic, avoided the school at night, avoided the truth. Only one person kept asking questions. McKenna, a transfer student with a habit of noticing things others ignored. On her first day, she arrived before dawn. The fog was thick, clinging to the ground like something alive. As she approached the gate, she noticed an old stone half buried under the soil. It wasn't a school marker. It looked more like a grave marker. She knelt down, brushing off the dirt. Strange carvings covered it, symbols she didn't recognize, shaped like eyes, circles, and teeth. "Don't touch that." McKenna jerked back. A security guard stood behind her, eyes wide with fear. "It's nothing," he said quickly, but his voice trembled. "Just don't disturb the ground. Ever." McKenna tried to ask more, but before she could speak, a bell echoed from inside the building. Only school hadn't even opened yet. The guard froze. The bell rang again, louder this time. Then the lights flickered on, one by one, as if something inside had been waiting. McKenna looked up at the dark windows, feeling a sudden drop in temperature. And for a moment, a brief, impossible moment, she saw children standing in the windows, staring back at her. But when she blinked, they were gone. The guard grabbed her arm. "Run," he whispered, "before they notice you." McKenna didn't run. Something inside her, curiosity, stubbornness, or something deeper, held her in place. "Who are they?" she asked, breath unsteady. The guard didn't answer. His eyes darted to the school building, then to the ground beneath their feet. "Listen to me," he whispered. "This school, it should never have been built here. This land is wrong." McKenna glanced again at the half-buried stone she had uncovered. The markings pulsed in her mind, like they were rearranging themselves into something she could almost read. The guard stepped closer, lowering his voice. "They buried an entire village here. Children, teachers, families. All wiped out in one night. And the government built a school on top of the graves." McKenna's pulse quickened. "What happened to them?" "No one truly knows," the guard said. "Some say a plague. Some say a curse. Some say the dead never left." Before McKenna could respond, the hallway lights inside the school flickered violently, like a heartbeat. Then the front doors creaked open by themselves. Wind rushed out of the building, cold and unnatural. McKenna hugged her arms to her chest and stepped back. "Stay away from the doors," the guard said. "If you hear children inside, don't answer. They will think you belong to them." McKenna swallowed hard. "Why are you still working here then?" The guard let out a hollow laugh. "Someone has to keep watch. Someone has to warn the new ones. But I don't go inside after dark. Not since." He stopped. His jaw clenched. A sudden sound echoed through the hallways, a faint rhythmic tapping like small bare feet running across the tiles. Tap tap tap, tap tap tap, tap tap tap. McKenna felt the hairs rise on the back of her neck. "The morning class doesn't arrive for another hour," she whispered. "Who's inside?" The guard didn't speak. He backed away from the entrance, eyes wide, knuckles pale around his flashlight. Then suddenly the tapping stopped. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. McKenna took a step toward the doors, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. "McKenna!" A voice shouted from behind her. She turned to see Teacher Halima, her homeroom teacher, approaching with hurried steps. "What are you doing near the entrance before dawn?" Halima asked sharply. McKenna pointed at the flickering lights. "The door opened, and I heard." "You heard nothing," Halima interrupted, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mawingu School is old. Make sounds. Don't let stories scare you. But McKenna noticed something the teacher tried to hide. Halima refused to look at the building. The guard stepped forward, his voice low. Tell her the truth. Tell her why the ground is warm at night. Tell her why the children. Halima glared at him. Enough. The guard swallowed his words. McKenna frowned. What children? Halima forced another smile. Come, McKenna. Let's get you inside. Your first class will begin soon. McKenna hesitated. Every part of her body screamed, don't go in there. But Halima took her hand gently. Trust me. Nothing will harm you during daylight. As McKenna followed her, she glanced back at the guard. He wasn't watching them. He was staring at the open doors, tears gathering in his eyes. The moment they stepped inside, the temperature dropped. McKenna's breath misted in the air. The hallways were dim, even with the lights on. Shadows stretched unnaturally long across the floor, bending around corners like living things. They passed the notice board. Half the papers were yellowed, some torn, some stained with something dark. Keep close, Halima said quietly. McKenna slowed. Why? She asked. Halima paused, her voice barely a whisper. Because they wake up at sunrise. McKenna froze. Who wakes up? Halima didn't answer. She kept walking, her shoulders tight, her steps quick. Suddenly, a locker door slammed shut at the end of the hallway. Then another. Then another. Blim, blim, blim. The sound echoed like thunder. Halima grabbed McKenna's wrist and yanked her into the nearest classroom. McKenna stumbled, heart pounding. Teacher, what is happening? Halima pressed a finger to her lips. Outside in the hallway, the footsteps returned. Childlike, rushing, running back and forth, tapping, starting again. A soft voice whispered through the door. Is she the new girl? McKenna felt her blood turn to ice. Another voice replied. She looks alive. McKenna clamped her hand over her mouth. Halima held her breath. The voices grew closer. Let's play with her. No, she might scream. That's okay. We like when they scream. The doorknob rattled violently. McKenna almost screamed, but Halima held her tightly, silently telling her to stay quiet. After a few torturous seconds, the rattling stopped. Then the voices whispered in perfect unison. Welcome to our school. McKenna felt the floor vibrate beneath her feet, like something deep underground was moving. Then silence. But not a peaceful silence. A waiting silence. The silence pressed against the walls, thick and unnatural, as if the school itself was holding its breath. McKenna stayed frozen beside teacher Halima, her pulse thudding in her ears. The voices outside the classroom had sounded so close. Halima finally released her grip on McKenna's wrist. We should not have come in at this hour, she whispered, her face pale. I thought sunrise would be safe today. Today, McKenna echoed. What happens on other days? Halima didn't answer. She just peeked through the window in the door. McKenna watched her face. She was terrified of what she might see. Terrified of what she had already heard. The footsteps hadn't returned, but the hallway felt occupied. Something unseen watched them. We need to get to the staff room, Halima said. There are rooms in this school the dead cannot enter. McKenna swallowed hard. Dead? Halima shut her eyes briefly, like she had said more than she meant to. But before McKenna could ask again, a strange sound drifted down the hallway. A low humming. Soft, childlike, rhythmic. The kind children sang during playtime. Halima, McKenna whispered. What is that? Halima went still. They only sing when they've found something new. Something new. Someone new. McKenna. Halima grabbed her hand. We're leaving. Now. They stepped into the hallway cautiously. The corridor was dimmer than before. the lights flickering in a slow, sickening pulse. McKenna froze. At the far end of the hallway, a small figure stood facing the wall. Child, barefoot, head slightly tilted, hands pressed to the cold tiles as if listening. McKenna's heart hammered. Teacher, do you see? Yes, Halima whispered. Don't look at it. Don't speak to it. And whatever you do, don't let it turn around. McKenna tore her gaze away, repressing the urge to run. But as they moved past the figure, something happened. The humming stopped. Slowly. Deliberately. The child began to turn its head toward them. Only the head, not the body. It rotated too far, too smoothly, too quietly. McKenna squeezed her eyes shut, forcing her feet to move. Don't look back, Halima hissed. The child's whisper brushed McKenna's ears like ice. I can see you. McKenna broke into a cold sweat. Halima pushed her forward urgently. Move. Move. They hurried down the hall, but as soon as they reached the corner, the lights went out. Blackness swallowed them. McKenna gasped. Teacher. A hand gripped hers tightly. Stay still, Halima breathed. They can't see us when the lights are off. She hoped that was true. McKenna stood rigid, trembling. The hallway smelled like old dust and something else. Something damp, earthy. Smell like fresh soil. McKenna whispered. Why does it smell like? Don't say it, Halima whispered. But McKenna already knew. Like something buried was opening. Something beneath them. Then McKenna heard it. The soft crumble of soil directly under her shoes. Teacher, she whispered, voice shaking. The floor is moving. Halima tightened her grip on McKenna's hand. Don't move. Don't. Clack. The tiles beneath McKenna spiderwebbed. Small dark hole opened. Cold air rushed upward, like a breath from something below. McKenna screamed. She fell to her knees as the floor gave way just a little more. Halima yanked her backward with all her strength. Run! McKenna scrambled to her feet. The lights flickered back on suddenly, bursting violently, one by one. And with each flash they saw things. Children. Standing in the hallways. Dozens of them. All facing McKenna. And smiling. Halima shoved her forward. To the staff room. Go! They sprinted down the corridor as the children's whispers rose behind them. She's perfect. Stay with us. Don't leave. We want to play. McKenna felt the floor tremble under her feet. She didn't look back. They reached the staff room door. Halima threw it open and pushed McKenna inside. She shut the door behind them and slid a metal latch across it. McKenna collapsed onto a chair, gasping for breath. Teacher, she choked out. What is happening? Why are there children? Why are they? Halima sank against the door, exhaustion and fear written all over her face. You deserve the truth, she said. McKenna leaned forward, trembling. Halima took a shaky breath. Mawingu School is built on a mass grave. But that's only the beginning. McKenna stared at her. Halima continued. These children, the ones who died here, they are trapped. Their spirits cannot leave this land. They rise at dawn and wander the halls, searching for what they lost. McKenna swallowed hard. What did they lose? Halima's eyes darkened. Their bodies. McKenna went cold. Only a few graves were ever found, Halima whispered. The rest are still buried somewhere under this building. And until their bodies are uncovered, they cannot rest. McKenna's voice trembled. How do you know all this? Halima looked down at her hands. Because I was here the night the village died. McKenna felt the world tilt. Teacher, she whispered. How? You look, you're only. I'm not what I appear to be, Halima whispered. And neither is this school. McKenna's breath hitched. Before she could ask more, the door latch rattled violently. Halima stiffened. McKenna froze. A child's voice whispered through the wood. Teacher, why did you run away? Halima shut her eyes. They found us, she whispered. The door latch rattled again. Harder. Metal scraped against metal as if tiny hands were clawing at it. McKenna backed away, her breath trembling. Halima pressed her back against the door, trying to hold it shut. But her eyes were full of something McKenna had never seen before. Regret and fear. Teacher, the voice whispered again, the same childlike tone, soft and cold. Why did you run away from us? McKenna stared at Halima. Run away. What do they mean? McKenna, Halima whispered, you need to listen to me carefully. What I tell you now, no one else knows. Not even the headmaster. McKenna swallowed. Tell me. Halima took a long, shaking breath. I am not just a teacher here. I was once a student of the village that stood on this land. I lived in the old village before the school was built. McKenna frowned. That village, the one that died. Halima nodded. McKenna's voice cracked. How did you survive? Halima hesitated, eyes flickering toward the door. Then she whispered. I didn't. McKenna's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Halima stared into McKenna's eyes. And for the first time since they met, McKenna noticed something wrong. Something off. Halima did not cast a shadow under the flickering fluorescent light. McKenna's blood froze. You're a spirit, Halima whispered. One tied to this ground as much as the children outside. The difference is, I learned how to hold on to my human form. McKenna backed away slowly. You're dead. Halima nodded. I died the same night the rest of the children did. But I had unfinished business. I wanted to make sure no one else suffered our fate. So when the school was built over our graves, I stayed. McKenna's voice shook. Then why do the other children attack people? Halima looked pained. Because they weren't buried properly. Their souls are broken, confused, half alive. They don't understand who is living and who is dead. They think everyone who enters this school belongs with them. McKenna felt cold sweat drip down her back. So they want me to join them, she whispered. Yes, Halima said softly. They think you're one of us. McKenna flinched as something hit the door. A small fist, then another, then dozens. Soft tapping. Scratching. Whispers slipping through the cracks like smoke. Teacher, let us in. We miss you. Why did you leave us in the ground? She can stay with us. She looks alive. But we can fix that. McKenna pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't block the voices. Halima turned toward her. We don't have much time. If we don't leave before daylight breaks, they will see clearly. And then nothing in this world will stop them from dragging you down. Down where? McKenna asked, trembling. Halima pointed toward the floor. To the place the school was built over. The place we were buried alive. McKenna's heart stopped. You were buried alive. Halima's face twisted. The villagers tried to escape. A sickness. A curse. No one fully understood. By morning, half the village was dead. The government sealed the land out of fear. They covered the graves with soil. Then concrete. McKenna whispered, horrified. And then they built the school. Yes. McKenna stared at the trembling door. What do they want from me? Halima stepped close, voice low. You can see us. That means your soul is open. They think you can lead them to peace, or join them. McKenna's breath quickened. I don't want to join them. You won't, Halima whispered. Not if we uncover the truth buried below this building. McKenna recoiled. Below the school? You mean? The tunnels, Halima said. The ones the villagers used to hide in. The ones where the children died. McKenna felt dizzy. You want me to go down there? It's the only way, Halima said. If we can find their bones, if we can lay them to rest, the school will be free. And so will I. The banging suddenly stopped. Silence swallowed the room. McKenna and Halima exchanged tense looks. Then a voice came. Not a whisper, not a childlike tone. A low, ancient, inhuman voice. Let us in. McKenna felt her legs weaken. The voice seeped through the cracks of the door. Something old. Something furious. Something deeper than the children. Halima stiffened. That's not the children. That's the guardian. The one that keeps the dead trapped here. McKenna shook. A guardian? Yes. The curse took form. It became something else. Something that feeds on souls. The door began to bulge inward, wood bending unnaturally. Teacher, McKenna whispered. It's going to break in. Halima grabbed McKenna's shoulder. We need to go. Through the back door. Before it gets inside. McKenna nodded shakily. Halima unlatched the small side door and pushed McKenna through. The hallway behind the staff room was pitch black. This way, Halima whispered. McKenna followed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something in the dark hallway was already watching them, waiting. The hallway behind the staff room swallowed them whole. McKenna could barely see her own hands. The darkness felt thicker than shadow, heavy, suffocating, almost like it had weight. Halima moved ahead of her, not walking but almost gliding, her steps soundless. Stay close, Halima whispered. This part of the school is forgotten for a reason. McKenna tried not to think about the voice at the staff room door. The guardian. The thing created by the curse. She tried, but the echo of its monstrous whisper clung to her bones. McKenna shivered. The corridor bent sharply to the left, where a locked maintenance door stood under layers of dust and cobwebs. Halima placed her transparent palm against the lock, and the padlock crumbled into ash. McKenna stared. You can do that. Halima's eyes flickered with sadness. Being dead has uses. But it also means I can only protect you up to a point. McKenna pushed the door open. A long flight of stone steps descended into darkness. A smell wafted up. Damp earth, mold, and something metallic. Something old and forgotten. The tunnels, Halima whispered. McKenna's voice trembled. Why are they under a school? Because the school was not the first thing built here, Halima answered. Before the concrete, before the classrooms, before the new town. There was the village. McKenna stepped onto the first stair, her heart pounding. What happened to your village? Halima lowered her head. We were infected, but not by a disease. The ground became sick. The dead rose sick. Something ancient beneath us awakened. McKenna felt her breath stutter. The guardian. Yes, Halima whispered. Born from the land. Born from our deaths. It hungers for souls, especially ones like yours. McKenna stopped mid-step. What do you mean ones like mine? Halima hesitated. We will talk when we're safe. For now, keep moving. McKenna swallowed hard and descended. Every step deeper felt like wading into another world. Older, colder, wrong. About 20 stairs down, she heard something. Rustling. Like fingers brushing against stone. Teacher, something is down there. Halima didn't look back. They are always down there. The stairs opened into a massive underground chamber. McKenna froze. The ceiling dripped water. Roots dangled like veins. Ratty children's shoes lay scattered in the dirt. And far across the chamber, illuminated by a faint blue glow from cracks in the earth, was a door made of stone. McKenna's breath hitched. What is that? Halima whispered. The entrance to the place none of the living were meant to see. McKenna stepped forward, barely breathing. And that's where the children's remains are. Yes, and more. Halima pointed toward the far wall. See there. McKenna turned. She wished she hadn't. Small skeletal remains lay half buried in the ground. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Tiny skulls. Tiny ribs. Marred fabric still clinging to some bones. McKenna's knees buckled. Teacher. Gods. Halima touched her shoulder gently. This is why they cannot rest. No formal burial. No rites. No proper passage to the next world. McKenna wiped tears from her eyes. We have to do something. We can't leave them like this. Halima nodded. We will. But first. Sound cut her off. Sharp, dragging scrape. Metal against stone. McKenna spun around. In the corner of the chamber, the darkness seemed to move. Gather. A tall figure stepped out. Impossibly tall, its limbs stretched wrong, its head almost scraping the ceiling. Its skin was made of soil, bones, and scraps of old cloth. Its eyes glowed a sick, molten gold. McKenna's blood turned to ice. The Guardian. Halima shoved McKenna behind her. Stay back. The Guardian tilted its head, the sound of cracking earth echoing in the chamber. You brought her, it growled, its voice layered, ancient, shaking dust from the ceiling. The one who can open the gate. McKenna grabbed Halima's arm in panic. Open what? What gate? The Guardian stepped closer, the ground trembling with each step. Halima whispered urgently. McKenna, listen to me, don't let it touch you. You're the first living person in decades who can survive down here. If it reaches you, the curse will bind to your soul forever. McKenna shook her head violently. No, why me? Why am I different? The Guardian answered instead. Your blood remembers this ground. McKenna froze. My blood. The Guardian's molten eyes narrowed. You are one of them. McKenna's heart pounded painfully. Teacher, what is it saying? Halima's voice cracked. McKenna. Your grandmother was one of the villagers. One who escaped before the curse sealed us in. That's why you can see us. That's why you can hear us. The dead recognize their own. McKenna felt her breath leave her body. I'm connected to this place. The Guardian took another step. Towering, monstrous. She belongs with us, it growled. Bring her. Halima moved between them, raising her hands. You will not take her. The Guardian bellowed, and the chamber shook violently. McKenna stumbled backward as fissures opened in the floor. The skeletons rattled, shifting like they were trying to rise. Teacher, McKenna cried. What do I do? Halima pointed to the glowing stone door. Run to the gate. That's where the truth is buried, where the curse began. McKenna's legs moved before her mind could catch up. The Guardian roared. The dead children whispered from the cracks in the walls. And McKenna sprinted toward the ancient stone gate. The one that had been waiting for her bloodline to return. The lights in the flooded hallway kept flickering, as if someone invisible walked past every few seconds. Lina held her breath, clutching the soaked wooden desk she was using for balance. Mr. Hale stayed close behind her, whispering for her to move slowly, but even his voice trembled. The sound of children giggling echoed again. Close, too close. It wasn't playful laughter. It was sharp, broken, like something trying to mimic children but failing. Lina stepped forward, her foot splashing in the cold water. The giggling stopped instantly. Silence spread so thick it felt like a hand pressing against her ears. Then a small face rose from the water in front of her. Boy, Bill. His eyes black. His lips sewn shut. Lina froze. Mr. Hale grabbed her arm to pull her back. But the boy's hand shot up and grabbed Lina's ankle with icy fingers. He screamed. The water rippled violently as more faces surfaced. Small, waterlogged children reaching for her, all with stitched mouths and hollow eyes. Mr. Hale yanked her free, dragging her down the hall as the children clawed after them, the water rising in waves behind them as if pulled upward by something monstrous. When they reached the staircase, the children stopped, floating in the hall and staring silently. Then they slowly sank beneath the water, disappearing. Rena clung to the railing, panting. Her ankle throbbed where the child had touched her. "What happened to them?" she whispered. Mr. Hale swallowed. "They were buried here before the school was built. The entire graveyard wasn't moved. Only the adults. They left the children behind. And now they're trying to pull us down with them." Rena's voice cracked. "No. They're trying to warn us," he said softly. Then he stared over her shoulder. Rena slowly turned. At the top of the stairwell stood a woman in a long, soaked burial gown. Hair hanging over her face. Bare feet dripping blood. The graveyard mother. She lifted her head, and her jaw hung too low, like bones breaking in slow motion. "You," she whispered, her voice swelling until it shook the walls. "You are trespassing on my children." The lights shattered all at once. Rena and Mr. Hale bolted up the stairs. The woman shrieked behind them, a scream so piercing Rena felt her vision blur. Doors slammed open on both sides of the hallway. Desks flew across the floor. Ceiling tiles crashed down like hailstones. Rena grabbed Mr. Hale's hand and ran faster, sensing the woman behind them. Not walking, not running, but gliding. Her broken jaw clacking open and shut like a snapped hinge. They reached the science lab and slammed the door shut, pushing a table against it. The pounding began instantly. Mr. Hale pulled Rena toward the supply cabinet. "There's a ladder to the attic. If we reach the roof, we can climb down." The door cracked. Something long and white slipped through. A hand with too many fingers. Rena climbed the ladder first, shaking violently, while Mr. Hale tried to hold the cabinet door closed. The wood groaned and splintered. She reached the attic and turned to help him up. "Hale, come now." He climbed, but the woman's arm caught his ankle. Her fingers dug into his skin like hooks. Rena grabbed him under the arms and pulled with everything she had. The woman's face appeared below, eyes boiling black, mouth stretching unnaturally wide. "This one stays," she growled. "No!" Rena cried and pulled again. With a final desperate kick, Mr. Hale freed himself and scrambled into the attic. The woman's hand retreated slowly into the darkness, leaving blood smeared across the ladder. They ran across the attic toward the emergency hatch leading to the roof. But before they reached it, they saw them. Hundreds of children standing in the shadows. Silent, unmoving, watching. Rena's breath hitched. "Please, let us go." A small girl stepped forward. Her stitched mouth trembled as if trying to speak. Then Rena realized. Not all their mouths were stitched. One child stepped out with his lips free. He opened his mouth, but instead of a voice, a chilling whisper filled the attic, echoing from the walls. "Free us, or join us." The graveyard mother's shriek rose beneath the floor, vibrating the entire attic. Mr. Hale grabbed Rena's hand. "We have to choose. If we free them, the mother turns on us. If we don't, they'll drown us like the others." Rena looked into the children's hollow faces and felt her heart twist. "I'm not leaving them here," she whispered. The attic floor began to split. The woman below screamed louder, climbing toward them. Rena took a step forward. "Tell me what to do," she said. The children pointed together, toward an old rotting coffin sealed shut in the corner. The mother's coffin. Rena sprinted to it and began tearing at the wood with her nails, her fingers bleeding instantly. Mr. Hale helped, kicking the rotten boards until they cracked. Black smoke burst out violently, swirling around them. The graveyard mother screamed as the coffin's lid tore completely open, and her power ripped away with it. The children dissolved like mist. The water downstairs drained. The woman shrieked one last time, crumbling into dust that swept across the attic and vanished. Rena collapsed, trembling. Mr. Hale sank beside her, exhausted. It was over, or so they believed, until a single small hand rose from beneath the torn coffin lid and gripped the edge. A child's voice whispered from the darkness inside. "Are you our new mother now?" Everything went silent. Everything went cold. And behind Lina, footsteps crawled across the attic floor. Minnie, approaching her slowly. As the screen cuts to black. Subscribe for more tales. If you're brave enough to return.